talking about this a bit more, we're joined by personal change expert Jo Huey. Joanne, thanks for taking the time to speak to us. Just looking at that report there, listening to Callum Best and others who are now adults who've gone through the process of having alcoholic parents as children, something you identify with is what you're hearing in that report, similar to the experience and the feelings you had and have today.
Yeah, definitely. I can echo exactly what Callum's saying. The feelings of, wanting that love, wanting that support, but it's just not there. And you don't see them very much because they're too busy drinking. So the time that you do get, you want it to be perfect, which very often it isn't. And to live with somebody's alcoholism is toxic. I mean, the effects that it has on you as a child and then subsequently has on you as an adult is massive. Just because the drinker stops, if that happens, doesn't mean to say that you're going to get better and things are going to get better straight away. It takes a very long time and it impacts people into their adult life in so many different ways, whether that's PTSD, anxiety, low self-esteem, low self-confidence. There are so many different things that are impacted because of what they've experienced as children. And so for me, it's important that people do feel heard, children especially, because they have little to no power in the home to make those changes, but also adults like myself that have been affected as children. And, they also need the support now too, because they come back into the NHS system with things like depression and anxiety, which we're seeing so much more these days. And they're the ones that also need support. So the difficulties that people face, as well as the wider family, whether that's partners, friends, colleagues at work, it's very widespread. And I don't think at the moment the awareness is where it needs to be. So the work that NACOA do is fantastic because you've got a helpline there. It's very private. No one needs to know who you are. You can pick it up, the phone, and call and speak to someone that's trained and knows how you feel. Most of them have been there themselves, and you get that empathy. So you can speak to somebody that really gets where you're coming from. And you just feel like you've got that support, which is very important. At the moment, there isn't enough support for families at all. There's a lot of support for the addicts, like Addiction and charities like that, but not nearly enough for families.
So when it comes to somewhere like NACOA that you've referenced there and an increase of more than 20,000 calls to that charity, if it's the children who are getting in touch, when you say the support isn't quite good enough, what is the process from after a child gets in touch to try and help?
So what, after the child's got in touch with NACOA?
Yeah.
Would you say? Well, ultimately, for me, it depends. Obviously, everyone's situation's different. So some families have got social workers involved. And so if that is the case, then again, more education around that for social workers, which is something I do because I'm very passionate about educating, collaboration of services, things like teachers as well, because obviously these children in the main will be going to school, not all of them, but, so having that extra support, people at school are being able to identify what's going on, that education is important because social workers that I train, very often they have a general understanding of alcoholism and the impact that that might have, but they don't understand it to the level that I believe they need to understand it. So having that support, if there is social workers involved, is important. Again, teachers at school, things like that. And sometimes children will talk to friends and open up, so having that peer support. But I think having some sort of support at school would be really beneficial, and that's just not really there at the moment.
And can I just ask, from an adult's perspective, if you're a concerned adult, either for a child or indeed friends of yours who have alcohol problems, how do you broach this subject as someone who's outside the immediate situation if you are concerned?
I think, first of all, to know that it is a topic that the family might be a little bit resistant about, but listening is really key. And I think that approaching it sort of in a gentle way to say, you know, if the person has noticed something going on, whether they've noticed someone is drinking too much, then they can obviously make a mention to the family member, you know, checking in with them, are you okay? And I think it's important to know that, like I say, they will maybe be a bit resistant about talking, but time is another very important thing. If people know that you have noticed, then allowing a certain amount of time for that person to process that and to then come to you and, you know, maybe open up, but also making sure that you're there to listen and creating that space. And I think that often people don't want to talk about it because there is a lot of shame. But if we are promoting different services that are available, then obviously we can make those people aware. So there's other services like Al-Anon groups. Not all families are ready to go to that stage, and some of them will prefer one service over another. I think having a service like NACOA, and again, if people know about it, then they're able to say, actually, if you do need to talk to someone and that person's not me, then here is a few other things that you can do, so that people have got some choices and options. But being there for people is important.
Indeed. And Joanne, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us, and just echoing what Joanne said there as we finish that interview. If you have been affected by the issues that you've just heard about, you can contact NACOA, the National Association for Children of Alcoholics. The helpline number is on your screen right now.